Web application hacking. Ethical hacking. So what is meant by hacking? What is meant by ethical hacking? Why ethical hacking necessary? Right? So these are the questions we have it in our mind. First, let's understand hacking. Exploit system vulnerability and compromise the system and gain unauthorized access to the system resources. Whereas ethical hacking is the same as hacking, but it helps organizations and businesses assure their security. It means it helps them to strengthen their security. But identifying vulnerability and exploit them and compromise the system, still that is expectation. But this helps by reporting vulnerabilities and exploits to the organization and businesses. It helps them to strengthen their security before even hacker, bad actor act onto it. So what are the types of hackers? Black hat, white hat, grey hat. Black hat means individual who uses his skills or hacking skills for malicious and destructive activity. White hat utilize hacking skills for defensive purpose. Help organization and businesses. Grey hat individual both work for both offensive and defensive. Why ethical hacking necessary? There are two aspects here. One is you should think like a malicious hacker, like a black hat hacker. What kind of technique and simulating methods and tools, tricks and they use. So we need to focus on such hacking tools, tricks, techniques, simulating methods which are used by the black hat hackers. So ethical hacker should use all of them and verify the existence of exploitable vulnerability in the system security. So think like malicious hacker and mindset is very important here. The second aspect is defend against malicious hacker attempts. So identify the vulnerabilities and find ways and exploit them before even malicious hacker attempt, and help organizations and businesses defend them. Plug those vulnerabilities, right, before even malicious hackers attack onto it. So that is why ethical hacking is very important. It's a necessary for the defensive purpose. What are the steps to perform ethical hacking? Yes, now you understood hacking and ethical hacking and types of ethical hacking, right? So what are the steps involved to perform ethical hacking? These are the steps I've listed here to perform ethical hacking. One is recon. Recon is like, it refer to pre-attack phase, right, where attacker observe the target before launching an attack. It's like a binocular. So you try to attacker observe that target and gather information as much as possible and a movement, and then understand the location of the targets and get information as much as possible, collect it before launching an attack. So that is during recon phase. We refer it as pre-attack phase. The next step is scanning. Once you observe that once you observe the target, now you go for the scanning. Right? Scanning is a phase just before the attack, just before preceding the attack. As part of scanning, attacker uses the details gathered during recon and identifies specific vulnerabilities. And third step is gaining access. Once information is gathered and specific vulnerabilities are identified during first two steps, and as part of gaining access, in this phase, real hacking occurs. Attackers use identified vulnerabilities during recon and scanning phase and gain access to the target system or network. Once target system and network hacked, and move on to the maintaining access. Maintaining access. Maintaining access phase, it is like once it gets hacked into the target machine and network and remain undetected. Stay as long as possible, even for months and years. So it means attacker install backdoors to gain persistent access and makes the target system and network provide command and control system to the attacker. So for months and years, the attacker using CNC, he continuously compromise the system and steal the information by installing backdoors and ensure that persistent access. That is, we call it as maintaining access. Sometimes even attackers can install rootkits at the kernel level to gain full administrative access to the target system. You must be knowing rootkits are used to gain access at the OS level, right? But whereas certain like virus, trojans, and these are all the things used to gain access at the application level. So in order to gain access to the OS and application level, you need to install rootkits, trojans, virus, and or malicious scripts. Install them locally, right? So that will be done as part of maintaining access. Then clearing tracks. Clearing tracks is something like, attacker doesn't want get any attention from the users or from the businesses or organizations. So attacker try to delete the server or system and application level logs to avoid any suspicions, and he will completely wipe out all the evidence of its actions, of attacker actions. Attacker doesn't want to leave any trace of it, so that this persistent access remain go undetected and stay as long as I can successfully. So these are the steps which we need to perform ethical hacking. So what are the ethical hacking terminology? Because we always used to talk about threat, vulnerability, exploit, payload, attack vectors, and so on. Let us understand what it is means. Threat means anything that has potential to cause harm. We call it as a threat. Vulnerability, in simple words, vulnerability is like a loophole or weakness. So that become a source for an attacker to enter into the system. For example, like a glass door, glass window. It's a weak, right? It's a delicate and weak. Somebody use that hammer and then break it. Say very easily it get broken. So you can term glass door as a loophole or a weakness. That's a vulnerability where for attacker to enter into that, for thief, robber to enter into that. So here in simple perspective, simple way, we can categorize glass door as a vulnerability. Right? We can call it as a vulnerability. It's a weakness. So similarly, applications are any target system has weaknesses or something which is unpatched, or directly somebody can log in and then access to the systems, right? Or that may be present in vulnerability in anywhere in the application. There may be input validation is missing. That I call it as a vulnerability. Suppose, let us take simple example. In HTTP server, there is HTTP handlers. Say HTTP get handler, right? As when request is received by the web server, and then web server invoke get handler function, and which process that get request. So as a part of get request processing, we're expecting function to perform input validation and sanitization. If that is missing, that we can call it as vulnerability, right? That's a weakness that lets any malicious parameter into it. The next one is exploit. What is meant by exploit? Exploit means it is a software tool designed to take advantage of flaw or vulnerability in a system and access system. So the example which I quoted here, glass door is a vulnerability or window is a vulnerability. If you use a hammer, that's a tool, right? I call it as exploit. So when it comes to the software, it's a software tool or code designed to take a flaw and get into the system. Exploit. It's a tool. Payload. What is meant by payload? It's like payload is an action, right? It's a set of operations will be performed on the target after successful exploitation. Next one is attack. What is meant by attack? It's a method followed by a hacker or individual to break into the system. And attack vectors. Attack vector means it's a path or means by an attacker gain access to the information system to perform malicious activity. So here attack vector means we can use XSS, SQL injection, they're all command injection, these are all attack vectors where you can use them, gain access to the information system to perform malicious activities. The next one, term zero-day attack. Zero-day attack means in a zero-day attack, the attacker exploits the vulnerability before the vendor releases the patch for the customers. So recently Log4j vulnerability was disclosed in Log4j component. So the vendor did not provide a release or a patch for the customers. The duration during which when there is no patch available for those vulnerability, and the attackers who perform that attack on exploiting that particular vulnerability, since patch is not available for the customer, that we call it as a zero-day attack. Okay, so we understood this now, terminology which we use very often in our vulnerability exploitation and ethical hacking. Next, hacking community and forums. Hacking community and forums. There is exploit research website and exploitdb.com. So you can go there. You can find a lot of exploits and a lot of vulnerabilities and CVE were found, and for that even POC when available, and take those POCs and use these POCs and exploit those vulnerabilities on the target side, right? So for many vulnerabilities, the POCs was available, proof of concept is available in that exploitdb.com for many vulnerabilities. So you can take those POCs and exploit targets and come up with the defensive measures. The next one is this is a popular site for the exploitation code. The next one is there are many hacking conferences are there. Some of the popular one, DEF CON and Black Hat Nullcon conference. You can keep attending them and then understand the current trends and vulnerabilities, right? And hacking magazines PageRack.org, hacking 2600. Then there are hacking forum sites, hacking forum, the hack hound. These are the sites where you can go and register it and engage with the users, discuss it, understand it. So there are many more, much more complex vulnerabilities. So you need to engage into that kind of communities and forums. Then understand the complexity of the vulnerabilities, nature of businesses, and it helps you to report, identify critical bugs.